Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast. I'm Carlo Garganese here as always with Nima Tavali. We have a big Easter show for you today. We'll be reviewing what was a thrilling Easter weekend of football. Napoli back to winning ways, just Lazio beating Juventus in the big game of the weekend. Roma also winning too. The two Roman clubs looking really strong now to finish in the top four and qualify for the Champions League next season. Milan and Inter both fighting to get into the Champions League. One of those, maybe even both of them, looking like they'll miss out on the Champions League next season. They both dropped points. So we'll be reviewing the Serie A weekend action. We'll also be looking ahead to the Champions League returning the quarterfinals. Italy is flying the flag in Europe. It's going to be a really exciting week of European football, not just in the Champions League. Obviously, we have Milan against Napoli and we have Benfica against Inter, but also in the Europa League, Juventus playing, Roma playing, and in the Conference League with Fiorentina as well. So it's going to be a huge week ahead, and it's going to be a really exciting end to the season. So we've got lots to talk about today. Prem Face of the week is a good one as well, and Badger of the week. So lots to talk about. For all our first-time listeners, this is our free weekly episode, which we do every Monday, reviewing the weekend Serie A action and all the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all of our content that we do throughout the week, including our weekly Q&A episode every Tuesday, where we answer all the questions sent in from our patrons, plus the weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction and much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP and you can become a subscriber for just $2.99 a month plus VAT. And for all of you listening on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, we'd really greatly appreciate a 5-star rating and a follow or subscription. We're also on YouTube as well, by the way. That all really helps us to grow. Okay, right, lots to talk about. Let's get into it. Okay, let's start off with Napoli, which wasn't the most eventful game, but as they are the leaders in Serie A and coming off the back of that 4-0 thrashing to Milan. But they got back to winning ways. They won 2-1 at Lecce. Nima, how did you rate their reaction to this Milan defeat? Because there was some concerns that, psychologically, and there probably still is concern, especially ahead of the Champions League game, but there were concerns about how that would affect them. But they come back, they bounced back straight away and won. What did you make of their bounce back?
I thought, I thought it was not a good game by Napoli. It was a rather poor performance, if we're perfectly honest. I think when Osimhen, they really miss Osimhen. But I thought generally they looked a little bit flat, Napoli. I felt they lacked the energy. And maybe they were a little bit tired. I mean, they really shouldn't be, given that, Spalletti's been rotating really well this season. But they did look tired, especially the midfield. And they didn't, they didn't press as much. The intensity was not as it usually is. Maybe they were on purpose not doing what they usually do because of the Champions League game. We'll have to wait and see what happens on Wednesday at the San Siro. So that depends, of course. But overall, I thought it was a very flat game. I thought Napoli rode their luck a little bit, but the most important thing for them is that they won. And they did so without probably, their most important, striker, or one of their most important players, if not the most important players, in Victor Osimhen. And I think that's pretty much all there is to say, really. Yeah,
and there's not too much to say in this. I thought they rode their luck as well. I thought a draw would have been a fair result in this game, and the Falcone, the goalkeeper, and Gallo between them, but certainly Falcone. Dreadful own goal that won Napoli the game. But yes, I agree. They looked flat. The pressing and the intensity wasn't there. The question is, are they tired or were they saving themselves? The Milan game will answer. The Milan game on Wednesday will answer that question. Given how they also lacked intensity and they also looked a little bit tired in the game against Milan, I'm a little bit concerned. that maybe it is that they maybe are tied. The Spalletti hasn't rotated. We've praised Spalletti for the way that he always kind of was able to sub players off like early in the second half or around the hour mark in games, and that has been the basis of his rotation, if you want to call it that. He hasn't rotated players that much from the actual start of games, especially recently when they've opened up such a big gap that you felt that maybe they should have rotated more leading up into the Champions League quarterfinals. But he hasn't. He's been playing pretty much his strongest team. The rotation has really been Lozano or Politano on the right, and Rui or Oliveira at left back, and that's basically really been it. Otherwise, if they've been available, obviously Osimhen wasn't available in this game. If they've been available, he's always started anyway with his strongest team. So I don't know whether that has come back to bite Napoli. Maybe now they're starting to show signs of being a little bit tired because they've played so many games. We'll see. We'll see on Wednesday. I do think, though, that Milan, I know we'll come to Milan, I do think Milan look fresher. Milan look in better condition than Napoli going into that game. I know we're going to preview that game. Milan rested 5 starters against Empoli. They obviously didn't win. Whereas Napoli, I think they only rested Zielinski from the best 11. And they've also lost Simeone as well. So I think they really need Osimhen back now. So that was obviously another blow to them. But, they got the win. They got the win, and that was crucial for the confidence. They had to get a win. They had to get that confidence back after the 4-0 thrashing. If there's one thing we can definitely say is not that there was any real doubt. The fact that Juventus lost and Napoli won, that means that now it's absolutely basically official that Napoli are going to be champions in Serie A. There was still, I would say there was like a 0.001% chance that, if Napoli had slipped up in this game, Juventus had beaten Lazio, and then Juventus got their 15 points back, that could have become 10 points. Or if they lost this game, that would have been 9 points. And then Juventus playing Napoli at home in next week, actually, that could have gone down to 6 points. There's that glimmer of a hope that maybe something could happen. But now with Juventus losing and Napoli winning this, that even if Juventus get their points back, it'll be 15 points and there's 9 games remaining. So it's all over now, definitely. So that is definitely something from a domestic point of view, which is good. But other than that, not much to say. Other than actually Lecce having 6 defeats in a row is a worry for them, and the relegation zone. Relegation is definitely a threat now for Lecce.
Yeah, it is. But having said that, I just struggle to see how Verona can overcome Lecce or Spezia. But yeah, it is a worry. But just a final word on Napoli. Di Lorenzo, talk about captain fantastic. What a leader he is. Even for the own goal, he's the one that finalizes the run forward. He's such an important player for them in both phases. He's always offering an option in defense, working hard, and he again scores important goals, assists for them in attack as well. What such a leader he is. One favorite quote that I like to use was Spalletti talking to school children about, working, how talent is important, but working hard is even more. It was on Instagram a couple of months ago. We mentioned it, and he says, Di Lorenzo has the highest marks, not because he's the best talented player, but because of how hard he works and always turns up to every game prepared. And you should do that in school as well, he was telling children. I'm really, really impressed. Again, Di Lorenzo, what a leader he's become for them. But as you say, even if Juve were to get their 15 points back, that means they've got 59 points, and 59 to 74. That's now that any glimmer of the hope is now removed. Now, there was still a glimmer if Napoli had slipped up and Juventus had beaten Lazio. That's all gone now because Juventus lost to Lazio 2-1. So let's move on to that game. First let's talk about this from the Lazio point of view. Lazio winning 2-1. Sarri Wow,
Sarri, the magician.
wow. What that second goal, it gives me goosebumps just talking about that. The way that how he gets these players who are not exactly superstars, but he gets them to play, not every single one of them at least. I mean, Milinkovic-Savic was a world-class player in my opinion, but he's not exactly blessed with world-class players other than that, except for maybe you could say Luis Alberto has glimpses of world-class level. But overall, just look at how they win that ball and the triangle that they create, and triangulation and how they attack. And it's just, the man is a football, the way he teaches football is just outstanding. We've always known how fantastically good Sarri teams are at attacking. But now the defensive aspect as well. He's really adapted to I mean, I keep talking about him being the pragmatic ideologue this season for the first time in his career, and I can't stress that enough, because he knows what he's got, and he's adapted his tactics and some of the balance of the team, for example, in terms of defense and what line they play to that. But he's got them playing football, the best football any of these players have ever played, in my opinion. I mean, Zaccagni is what, the most prolific Italian attacker. Now, he's a decent player. I liked him even when he was at Hellas, but he was never at this level. They were fantastic, and I think it's scontato now. You know, as they say in Italy, it's there's no doubt in my mind that Lazio will finish in the top four if Juventus don't get their 15 points back, or if they do and get penalised for other things. I think Lazio will finish second. I think they will, and that is a fantastic overachievement. Excuse me. I'm so impressed by Maurizio Sarri. I've been saying for a few months now that I think he's been throwing his hat in for a bigger job. Absolutely.
No, I agree. I agree with everything there. They totally deserved to win this game. They dominated, controlled the game until, I would say, the last 20 to 25 minutes when Juventus went to a front three, and I think Allegri's to blame for that as well. But we can't take anything away from Lazio, because they imposed their game, which they do under Sarri, especially the midfield. The midfield just controlled the game. And I thought Milinkovic-Savic and Luis Alberto, they completely ran it in midfield. Felipe Anderson and Zaccagni on the wings caused all kinds of problems. They linked up, obviously, for that second goal was absolutely fantastic. As a team moves, starting from their own half when Vlahovic lost it, and then moving it up the field, moving it onto the right wing, and then Felipe Anderson with the cutback, and then that genius flick. This is why I love. I've said it before, haven't I, about Luis Alberto? He's like a 1980s player. Like, he's somebody that's kind of been killed out of modern football, but is still so good that, you get these, like you said, those glimpses of world-class genius from Luis Alberto. And he probably doesn't have the physical qualities and the engine and the intensity to play for a top team, because top teams can't carry those kind of players. But that's also credit to Sarri, and those two haven't got on because, for that very reason, that Sarri wants his players to all work for the team, and Luis Alberto isn't that kind of modern player, unfortunately. But even Sarri's managed to make it work, even with Luis Alberto, and to watch him and Milinkovic-Savic do their stuff is wonderful. And I also have to give a shout out to the Lazio defence. It was pretty comfortable for them for like I said, for the first 60, 65 minutes. But Juventus really came strong in the last 20, 25 minutes. And I thought the way that Lazio defended it and closed out the game, I thought was brilliant. And that shows why Lazio have got the best defensive record in Serie A. And that was the first goal that Lazio even conceded in 6 games, and it come off a corner. We know how good Juventus are at corners. So, yeah, absolutely wonderful. And also,
I just want to, before we move on to the next point on this, I want to raise the issue as well. About if Sarri leaves or stays. Here's the thing: if anything, Napoli has proven this season is that with a clever transfer window, meaning because let's remember, Napoli didn't net spend at all a lot this last summer. I think there was something like a negative of minus 3 or 4 million euros between players out and players in. And they also lowered the wage budget. Lazio will be looking at that with Sarri and going, well, hang on a minute. Why we can do that as well if we strengthen correctly. I mean, for example, they sell, I don't know, just as an example, they sell Sergej Milinkovic-Savic for 80 million, and then they replace them with players that give them that suit that system and also provide them depth in weaker areas. Look, they have one of the best coaches of his generation, if we're perfectly honest, in terms of tactic and the job that he's actually done.
Sarri, you've got to look at him. He's done magnificent.
Yeah.
He's been a roaring success in all four. And I'm sorry, Chelsea fans can complain all they want. He's been a roaring success in all four of his last jobs. At Napoli, obviously, we saw what he did at Napoli. It was just magic, the football he played. Just unfortunately didn't manage to claim that Scudetto. And then Chelsea, where he won trophies. And then at Juventus, he won the Scudetto, even though he had a team completely ill-fitted to his type of football. And we've seen the decline after he left as well at Juventus. And now at Lazio, he's like you said, he's massively overachieved to get Champions League football.
What I mean. I mean, Lazio will be looking at this, and Sarri is in a fantastic position. He'll be going to Lotito saying, look, this is what I need. You give me another summer like last summer. Given where Juve, Inter, and Milan are, I'm not saying that there is...
But that's the beauty of Serie A now. That's the beauty of Serie A, that because of the financial problems, everything is tightened up. There's no big gaps. Obviously, Juventus still have the financial superiority, but it's not marked like it was, like it has been in the past. Everything is tighter, and now it comes down to more to ideas and
also good direttori sportivi.
Throughout the club,
and that's what I'm saying. That if Sarri is in a good position, he can go to Lotito and say, "Look, do this." And if we do, they actually could be an outsider like Napoli was. I had them as a dark horse to win the Serie A. Why not Lazio next season?
Yeah,
seriously.
I mean, I think the problem with this is going to be obviously the depth. But if they get,
but that's what I'm saying. Like if you handle it properly, and we know that Sarri will focus, on the Serie A. If they get into the Champions League, they'll probably end up in the fourth pot, so they'll probably get knocked out. But of course, it's more important to him, the league. And if he were to deliver some sort of a magical season like Spalletti's had and Napoli have had, if they find the right players like Napoli have, they could do it, because the Serie A, the top teams like the Inter, the Milan, the Juve, they're not what they once were. They're almost
that's the point. Yeah, that is the point.
So there is an opening. And it's a historic opening. And Napoli have taken full advantage. Now it's up to Lazio to see if they can.
And Lazio's record versus.
Because they have a Sarri, they have one of the best coaches in the league and one of the best Italian coaches of his generation.
No, absolutely, and I want to hammer home that point about being one of the best of his generation. Because how many coaches can you name me who in their last 4 jobs, 4 separate teams, have been, like I said, roaring success? And
with such vast financial abilities as well. I mean, it's just no.
And I would actually argue that probably only one of those teams, probably Napoli, actually had the players to suit his football.
Yeah,
to be honest with you, Chelsea didn't. No. Juventus definitely didn't.
Absolutely.
And I still believe that even Lazio, a lot of the players are like, I personally don't even think Milinkovic-Savic and Luis Alberto definitely isn't suited to his football.
Yeah.
I don't think either of them.
It work.
And he's made it work.
And it's so incredibly impressive. But no, I mean, I think they're going to finish second. I really think so.
I think top 4 is pretty much nailed on. They're not in Europe. All the other competitors are.
No, I have to give it to them.
And they've got that gap. They've got a big gap now as well.
I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong, and I was wrong on Lazio and Sarri, or not Sarri, but I was wrong on Lazio being able to finish in the top 4. I gladly hold my hand up and say.
Well, I don't think anybody could have been predicted. But we also, I don't want to take anything away from Lazio. We have to also recognise that this has been a historically. I don't think there's ever been. Without going through the history books, I don't think there's ever been such a historically low season in terms of the points obtained from second downwards. And that only include Lazio in that as well. The number of losses, you've got Inter with 10 losses. You've got Juventus have got 11 losses in all competitions. You've got. I mean, this is a historic low from 2 downwards. So obviously,
It's
well
so
done to
weird.
Lazio. Lazio have taken advantage of that. I'm not taking anything away from them, but we
No, no,
also
no.
need to take that into account as
No, but
well.
we
That
also need to take into account that the Serie A teams are doing fantastically in Europe. So the
yeah,
quality of the
it's
Serie A is
strange. It is
also.
strange.
I
Yeah,
don't think. I think that it's the quality and competitiveness of the Serie A has improved, and of course, this whilst you have a financial situation that isn't the best. But I mean, it
yeah.
remains to be seen where this goes. But yeah, no, it's absolutely extraordinary.
It
And
is a great season for if you're a fan of competitive football, and obviously Napoli. I know that people can say, "Well, Napoli have gone way ahead," but I mean,
yeah,
it's very exciting to see, and also Lazio's record against the top teams this season. Just to give Sarri another some more credit, they've beaten all the top teams this season. They've beaten
yeah,
Juventus, they've beaten Roma twice,
twice.
they've
Inter,
beaten Inter, they've beaten
Milan.
Milan, Atalanta. I mean,
They
they've beaten
hammered Milan not too long ago.
They hammered Milan. They beat Inter
Yeah.
with 3. They scored 3 against. They put 3
Yeah.
past Inter.
No, you got to give credit
I
where credit is
mean,
due. Got to give
so
credit
they've
where
done
credit
it.
is due.
But there is one negative though,
Yeah.
unfortunately, off the pitch, which we have to talk about it. It's a dark week for Italian football when it comes to racism. First, the Lukaku being racially abused by Juventus fans in the Coppa Italia semi-final. And now we have Juan Cuadrado being racially abused by Lazio fans in that match. It came when he got substituted.
Yeah.
He could have got a second yellow, and so he was taken off. And as he came off, he was targeted by Lazio fans, and a number of reports say that the stadium speaker had to put out a reminder to
Well, a
the
friend of
fans.
mine was there at the stadium and watching the game, and he confirmed to me what happened. And he said that yes, everything. He confirmed that it happened. The speaker said it. They racially abused Cuadrado, and that's what happened. And this is again why we on the Thursday pod, which is for Patreon only, keep talking about that. This is not down to which club or a specific fan base or a specific club. This is an Italian football problem. It
Yeah,
keeps happening time and time again, week in, week out, from the lower levels all the way up to the Serie A, and it will not stop until there is a uniform approach by all clubs at all levels, with the Lega Calcio and the FIGC leading the charge. It's as simple as that. If they leave it just to the clubs to do it, then you'll have the discrepancy. You'll have you won't have the uniformity. You'll have no consistency in how these issues are handled, and it'll continue to happen, because as everyone would tell you, if there are no repercussions for bad behavior, the bad behavior will continue. And again, I think everyone has a responsibility here, the clubs, but also the FIGC and Serie A and Lega Calcio as organizers of this event. And also, I'm not asking them to change Italian society. I don't think football can change society at all. It's a societal problem, racism all over the world. But what Italian football can do is to create a legal framework that applies from the Serie A all the way to the Serie C or Serie B, or all the way down the leagues, that has a zero tolerance policy towards this stuff, that identifies and punishes the individuals, and not just one or two, but every single one that does it, because and to do it uniformly. And so it's really important that we stay away. This is too serious of an issue to be turned into a silly football tribalist club debate about your fans, my club, my fans, my clubs, fans of my club versus
yeah.
fans of your
I'm
club.
sick of it. I'm sick of it. I really am. I'm just sick of the tribalism with anything, anything to do with Italian football when it's any kind of controversy. I get it when it's football. That is
Yeah,
part of fandom.
part of the game.
Part of the fandom is making fun of your
Yeah,
rivals, and the banter and the
yeah.
mocking, and those
That's
kind
part
of
of football. That's why we
stereotypes.
love it.
That's part of football. That's part of football. But the whole kind of tribalism when it comes to serious issues and controversial
It's
issues, and
exhausting.
refereeing as well. I hate it. I'm sick of it, and I just straight away I just turn off, and I'm not interested at all, because it's really one of the reasons why Italian football finds itself where it is. now, and the decline of Italian football is a big reason for it.
Well, I think for me, it's like, without going into to broad, but the racism issue and how poorly they handle it, and immediately, what about that team? What about as if you honestly think that anyone criticizing what happened to Lukaku is automatically saying that racism from Inter's Curva Nord or Milan's Curva Sud or Roma or Hellas or anyone else is okay. Like, if you think that, you are an idiot at best, and it's so exhausting. That even becomes to this, and it's a carnival barker sideshow, that whole debate, and I'm not engaging with it anymore because it's nonsense.
There's also a time and a place for it as well, isn't there?
Exactly.
There's a time. I mean, there is a time. I mean, there is a time for whataboutery. Sometimes that definitely is. There's a time for whataboutery. There is a time. There is a time for whataboutery, but you've also got to recognise that when you have a really serious incident like racism, like with Cuadrado and with Lukaku, immediately after the game, all you should talk about is just condemn it and
steps to be taken to eradicate.
And that's it. That's all you. Then maybe later on you can talk about, you can look at the other side of things, but straight away that should be the only thing that's talked about. And unfortunately, in Italian football, that isn't.
No, it isn't. It isn't
how it's dealt with.
Sometimes, as we saw this last week, you have actual people working for clubs on official channels, spreading the most ridiculous conspiracy theories, saying that one club fans could disguise as my club's fans and go and stand in our curva. It could happen. And it's like, no, well, why are you even bringing that up? The only reason you're bringing that up is to muddy the waters and gaslight, because you turn it once again to a football tribalist issue. And that to me is just disgusting, because when you do that, you're kind of also, even if you don't mean to do it, you're kind of running cover for the people hurling racist abuse at players. And remember, they have families there. There are people, there are young children watching this. How do you think that makes a kid feel, a black girl or a boy or a family member of any of these players feel when they watch a person of color get racially abused because of their skin color, monkey chants? How do you think that feels?
What did you think of the punishment that was given out to Juventus in terms of?
Well, I mean, I thought it was great, but it was just two people. And again, it's not Juventus. So Juventus does this. What will happen with Lazio? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
this is not. And also, the suspension, if I'm not mistaken, only applies for Juventus home games. This is madness. It should be for all sporting events or all football events, home, away. If you racially abuse anyone and you're found guilty of it, you're no longer allowed at any football stadium.
So those two Juventus fans are able to go to away games still.
I think that's how it works. Yeah, because they can't ban them, because
one of them was a minor. One of them was a minor.
One of them got a 10-year ban.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great, but Juventus can't ban what Napoli do at their stadium. You see, this is what I mean about the uniformity, and there needs to be a framework that goes from the top to bottom across all clubs. That's the problem, Carlo, and it's so exhausting that it doesn't happen.
Nima,
because
Italian football. Italian football doesn't do that with anything. There's no.
Yeah, but it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's so deflating.
Italian football don't put projects together and plans together. What are you talking about?
But do you see what I'm saying? Yeah, but it's 2023, Carlo. It's embarrassing. You and I love this league. We love this football. We're the only ones. This podcast is the only podcast that truly, I would say, is honest about their love, because love means you criticize what's bad and you praise what's good. Otherwise, you're
no. As I was told by one, you've got to be positive about Allegri all the time, otherwise you're not a Juventus fan. Which what I was told at the weekend by someone.
Oh God,
positivity only.
This is the thing, though. It's obsession. When you cannot acknowledge when something is wrong with something you like, you're not in love with it, you're obsessed with it. And obsession is unhealthy. We love this league. We love the Italian football culture overall, because we think it's beautiful, it's unique, it has a long history, and it's beautiful, and it's unlike anything else. But there are ugly sides of it, and we have to talk about that in an open, honest, and transparent way, and put aside fan allegiances and tribalism, because
anybody that's not self-critical about themselves
or anything
or
they
what
like.
they represent is never successful in life. Never.
But it's not even
Never.
about successful. They're dishonest and they lie to their
They're
audience.
dishonest, yes, but I mean, if you want to succeed, and in this
Yeah.
case, you want Serie A to succeed,
Yeah.
or you want your team to succeed, or you want the best for them, you have to be self-critical.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't. You
have to question everything.
You have to be
everything.
self-critical. Forget about criticism from the outside. Personally, that never bothers me, but you've got to be self-critical. But anyway, talking about being self-critical, will Juventus be self-critical after their performance? I mean, we've praised Lazio for theirs, but it takes two to tango. There's always one side good, the other side bad, and I think with Juventus, it's frustrating with Juventus because I think I said on the pod, maybe not last week, maybe the week before, how I almost came close to really outright praising Allegri about how I was starting to see progress. And I just feel frustrated because the last three games, I feel we've seen Juventus and Allegri fall back into the old ways and revert to type. Certainly in the last two games, I can forgive it in the Verona game because I think they were rotating players and they had half an eye on the Inter game and the Lazio game. I can forgive that. But what I find unforgivable is the approach from Allegri in this game and against Inter. Just way too passive, way too defensive. This 3-5-1-1, I just hate that system. Outright hate that system. And just the whole approach and mentality just from the start, which set the tone for everything that we saw in the first hour against Inter and the first hour in this game as well. And Juventus barely created anything. I mean, they're completely outplayed in the first half by Lazio, completely outplayed. And they created nothing really in this game until they went three up front in the last quarter of the game. And then they actually started to create chances and pin Lazio back. And maybe even deserved an equaliser, maybe at the end. So it's just that is, as a in a nutshell, that is what frustrates me. The approach and the mentality, which I just felt like was just a step backwards at a time when I felt like Juventus and even Allegri to an extent were starting to show progress. They were in a good run of form. And they were getting the results. They were efficient. There was that feeling of inevitability that you've always had historically with Juventus teams and even Allegri teams back in his first spell, where it was kind of like you just knew it was coming. You knew Juventus were going to get the win. I just felt that they've taken a step back, and this was a terrible performance from Juventus.
I thought it was a step back for sure, but I do also think that Lazio away is one of the most difficult fixtures of the calendar, and as we've praised them correctly for, they showed in this game why they are outstanding in big games. I mean, they even beat Napoli away. This is like that's how good Lazio have been this season, and their midfield is the key. All of this success comes from that fantastic midfield, and so yes, I do think that Juve were not good enough in this game, but overall, look, it's a crazy season for Juve. If you zoom out a little bit, and you look at what they've actually done on the pitch, 59 points, second in the Serie A, all things considered, I think we've started to see progress, like you said yourself. I'm afraid to say embryo because you'll start making fun of me, even though you said it yourself, literally just use euphemistic language to express the very same thing.
That blooming embryo, that embryo.
It's not even an embryo anymore. I'd say the kid's about to, it's the kid's being born. And I see something, here. And I think I think he's creating some sort of stability here. And I love the fact that he's integrating these young players. The Fagioli I really like. I love that Locatelli is finally starting to show that he understands what it means to play for Juve. Rabiot's been outstanding.
Can I just stop you there, because this is what frustrates me actually, is I keep hearing all this stuff about what Allegri's done with the midfielders. Rabiot having the best season of his career in terms of goals. Fagioli getting his chance and growing, and Locatelli finally in 2023 starting to show more of his true level. And that may be all true. There is definitely truth to that. I mean,
but you're going to shit on Allegri anyway.
Rabiot. Well, I'll get to my point. The point is that there might be some truth in that individually all of these players are starting to show more. But the midfield as a whole, as a whole, as a unit, it's still regularly getting outplayed as a unit. So that is the issue. And, I was checking out, and I know, you're certainly going to tell me that possession isn't everything.
I don't think so.
And that's true. It's not. Juventus are 13th in Serie A for possession. That is abysmal. It's abysmal. This is Juventus. We're talking about. It's not Tottenham. That's becoming on my bingo. That's getting on my bingo card. I was going to say
that's going on your bingo card.
That's going on my bingo card now. Yeah, this is Juventus. This is Juventus.
This is Juve. Patterns of play.
Yeah, this is Juventus. It's not Tottenham. That is number one on my bingo card now.
It really is.
13th in Serie A for possession is just not good enough. And that is down, that's always down to the midfield more than anything. Obviously, it's down to the mentality, the style of play and everything. But, generally, it's down to the midfield. You ask your midfield to win the midfield, control the play, dominate the possession if you can. 13th, whether you're a counter-attacking team or...
Can I ask you what you think? But don't you reckon that Pogba being brought in as a starter and being injured the entire season, surely there's a little bit of leeway here? Because that can't be Allegri's fault.
Oh, of course, for Pogba. Pogba will obviously...
Yeah, but he was going to start. Do you know what I mean?
Pogba obviously improves the team and improves the midfield and improves the creativity, and he gives you that match winner and if he's fit, a top class player, certainly at Serie A level. But 13th in Serie A for possession, Pogba or no Pogba, that's abysmal. That is absolutely abysmal. And that is and in this game, as I said before, they were completely dominated by Milinkovic-Savic and Luis Alberto, who are wonderful midfielders. But this is a big problem for Allegri. His midfields are always getting dominated, and we can talk as much about how Rabiot's having a great individual season, how Fagioli is getting his chance to develop, how Locatelli has started to show more of his true level, even though he still hasn't scored. He still hasn't scored a goal in over a year, and he's got 1 assist in 13 months. Which isn't good. So I just think that the midfield, that just the overall mentality, and also another thing, Juventus' away form this season is horrific. They've in 14 Serie A games this season away from home, they've won 7, drawn 2, lost 5. That's horrific, and they've scored 13 goals in 14 games. 13 goals in 14 away games this season. Again, that's all down to Allegri and his style of play, and they just do not create enough chances. And I know we're going to talk about Vlahovic. We've got a segment on Vlahovic, so I won't talk about Vlahovic and how bad he was in this game. But yeah, so we can talk about progress or not, but at the end of the day,
No, look, it's...
you can't defend that. You cannot defend that away form.
I can't, but I do think there's nuance here. And I think that the season Juve had, things don't happen in a vacuum. And the season that Juve have had with all the nonsense, they don't even have they don't have anything. There's no sporting director. There's nothing there. It's only Allegri and the kids, and they're doing the best they can, and they're still in Europe. They're still in the Coppa Italia. They're, they could still, with all the if they didn't have 15 points deducted, they'd be second spot. So all things considered, I think it's okay. But
just on that second spot, again, as I said with Lazio, I think we've also got to consider that this is a historically bad season in terms of second downwards, in terms of actual points accumulated.
Yeah, it is,
and actually, Juventus are on course this season based on their points average per game to hit 77 points this season. That's with their 15 points back. That's still less. That's still less than what Pirlo got in his one much maligned season. And listen, just to make it clear, I'm not for 1 minute saying that Pirlo should be the Juventus manager. I was critical of him, and so were you, right? About how he just wasn't cut out, wasn't ready for the job. Probably never will be ready for the job. We've seen what he's doing in Turkey. I'm just saying, for those that are all about, Allegri, look how he's improving Juventus, rah rah rah. They're on course to get less points than what Pirlo got in his season.
Yeah, but I have a counter argument to that. I don't really care about that. The Inter team that won the treble in 2009-2010 finished the season on 82 points. So at the end of the day, every season is unique because it's kind of decided by the inner workings and what happens in that season. Do you know what I mean? By the other teams, it's defined by the competition of that. Do you see what I'm saying?
Of course, but I'm not for 1 second having this revisionism that we started to get when Juventus. And I'd say this every single time Juventus go on a run. I say the same thing. Why are people getting carried? Why are people getting carried away? Look, and Juventus have lost 11 games.
No,
this
it's
season.
too much. 11 games. Inter and Juve.
You went absolutely berserk over, rightfully so, about Inzaghi losing 10 games.
And I am here as well.
And there's still a quarter of the season left, by the way. There's still a quarter of the season left. And
but Inter have lost 10 games in the Serie A alone. But look, I think that it is crazy. I'm looking at the number of defeats. I'm looking at, Napoli 3 defeats. That's normal for a team that's going to win the league. Lazio 5, Roma 8, Milan 7. Inter
and we're talking about
10.
Serie A here, right?
Yeah,
just Serie
only
A.
Serie A, just the league. Napoli 3, normal. But then Lazio 5, Roma 8, Milan 7, Inter 10, Atalanta 9, Juventus 6. Bologna in 8th, 10. Fiorentina 10. It's crazy. To me, that suggests that the overall quality of the league is increased. If you look at the European performances, the top teams in the top 8-9 teams in the Serie A, their overall quality has increased, but the distance between them, Napoli aside, is so little that everyone can beat anyone. Yeah, and that's why you get this number.
It's definitely tightened. It's definitely tightened. I don't know 100% whether you can say the quality has increased. That's subjective.
Look, I compare with the other European,
I would say it's tightened. No, definitely, it's definitely tightened. Just one final thing before we talk about Vlahovic. Just this Milinkovic-Savic on Alexandro incident. The push.
Have you seen
first goal?
There was a video where you see it from the beginning. It's the worst dive. It's a comical dive. It's the most comical dive I think I've seen. There's barely a touch on it, and he flies and throws himself forward. It was a Juventus friend of mine was foaming at the mouth with rage at Alexander, going, "Why are you doing that? Why
Alexander is an absolute idiot. I don't know why. even if you feel a touch, why are you take an unnecessary risk like that?
Why would you do? That's exactly what he said. He's like, for goodness sake, try to win the ball. Then if you tumble over, then you've got more of a shout. But with VAR, when they see you throwing yourself, flying it was cartoonish.
The weird thing is, though, Luca Morelli, who's always held up as he's always held up as the kind of, the main man when it comes to analysing. He said it was the push.
I saw that. I don't understand what he's looking at.
The push was very, very obvious. VAR saw the incident. Here was a long check, and they decided to allow the goal because if the referee has the full view of the situation, the judgment is left to him. In my view, the referee did not see the push properly. He was too far away.
I don't know what images he's using, if he's actually seen the whole thing, because that's
all I would say about this is that usually, what I would say is this: usually, the referee gives those incidents, and I say that because usually the referee gambles a little bit. Sometimes he thinks, right, there was a tiny bit of a push, and he always sides with the defender. That's usually, that doesn't mean that I think it was a push. I'm just saying that usually they get given, and then they might turn it around after if it wasn't. But I thought there was barely a touch, and it was madness from Alexandre. Completely.
It was one of I disagree with Marelli there as well. I think he's really. But what I like about Luca Marelli is he's very good at explaining how things work and how the laws of the game are applied and in what way.
And I think the point he's making is that usually the protocol would be if there's a touch on the defender, they would give it, even though the touch was so minimal. It's a joke. But I think he was saying. One thing I would say is though, even if we say that Juventus were unlucky, which I don't think they were. I think that they can't really complain because I think Locatelli did a really bad foul on Milinkovic-Savic, which I would call an orange card. Yeah, where it could have been a red in my opinion.
And Quadrado was very lucky not to get a second yellow.
Quadrado was lucky, and then that was when the racism happened. After that, so also, finally, Juventus's top 4 chances are over unless they get the 15 points back. They're not getting the top 4 now after this loss. Okay, just to finish off on Juventus, we have to talk about Dusan Vlahovic. And we spoke about him a few weeks ago about how bad he's been. should Juventus sell Dusan Vlahovic, or does he just need to escape Allegri? I think that is a big question, because he was dreadful in
Escape
this.
Allegri.
Yeah.
I love the framing. Escape Allegri. As if it's like some 1980s adventure movie, like Indiana Jones and like Dusan Vlahovic and the escape from the Allegri.
Yeah,
I mean,
so escape from Allegri Alcatraz. I'm trying to Alcatraz. Allegri-traz.
Allegratas. Oh my god.
Allegri-traz.
Oh my
Yeah.
days.
I mean, listen. This was
escape from
yeah.
I love the drama.
Well, one way or another, it was a dreadful. Right, listen, it was a dreadful performance against Lazio. I mean, the way that he failed to control the ball just seconds before that Lazio counter attack for the second goal, I think that just summed up Vlahovic's career at Juventus. But if we look at his form, he's now gone 8 games without a goal in Serie A, no assists in that time, and then I went a little bit further. And in his last 17 games for Juventus in Serie A, he's only scored in 3 of those games. I mean, Nima,
it's abysmal.
I mean, what is he offering? What is he offering?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I think I keep saying that. I think it's also because of that he looks confused. He doesn't seem to understand what is required from him to play the kind of football, or just to play for Juve. He doesn't understand, because he's a fantastic finisher, but in the box. But if you want to be a world-class number 9 playing for a big team, you have to be able to play with few touches in a game, and also per game, and also with your back against the goal. And Vlahovic just doesn't do that. And I'm really, he doesn't know how to do that. And of course, I think there's an aspect of Allegri too. I think absolutely, when you coach a player for 1.5 or now 1 year and 2-3 months, there is a big responsibility on the coach. But I think I'm starting to, I look at the Dusan Vlahovic attitude and body language on the pitch, and I'm starting to ask, does he even want to be at Juventus? That's the question I'm asking.
No, he's broke. He looks totally bereft of confidence. And I think absolutely he's got to be asking that question. Did he make a mistake joining Juventus? Because Arsenal wanted him, and he was very clear he wanted to join Juventus and rejected them. The question is, why is he struggling? Is it down to Allegri, more of a reason down to Allegri, or is it a bit of both? Is it because you can't absolve you can't absolve Vlahovic of some blame. You have there has to be
both of them.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously we've spoken about this before, so I won't go into too much of it. Allegri playing counter-attack football in a 3-5-1-1 system when you only have one other offensive player on the pitch, Di Maria in this case, for the Lazio game and generally, he often has 3 defenders on one marking him, because so many teams in Italy play a 3-man defence, so he's often 3 against 1. And I picked out this stat. This is unbelievable. 9 shots on target from the penalty box this season from open play. 9 shots. Can you believe that? 31 games in Serie A, 9 shots on target from inside the penalty box from open play. How is that even possible?
I don't know. I was actually going to DM you when I saw that on the script, that today's show, are you sure that's correct?
I know. It seems impossible. It come from a stats provider. So
I believe you. I'm not saying
I didn't manually add them up.
No, I know you didn't. No, I was just wondering. Like,
it doesn't seem possible. It doesn't seem possible. It's like
that's the point. It feels completely like what? That's my reaction to that. And I think Allegri definitely has to be number 1 to blame, because of the fact that we saw what he did at Fiorentina. He broke a 60-year record. So you can't go from that to this. And also, you look at his scoring record for Serbia. It's actually pretty good. He scored during the international break recently. He scored 3 goals, didn't he, in 2 games? I wonder if Vlahovic is a striker who simply just isn't good enough to play in a team that plays like this. He needs to play in a team that is like Fiorentina or Arsenal, even, that is on the front foot, that is more offensive. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That he just can't play that in one of those
I think I've always said though that with young attackers, I feel like when they're still developing, playing in an offensive brand of football is so much more helpful
more
for the
important.
development. And it's the
I agree.
same problem I had with Scamacca joining David Moyes at West Ham. The Scottish Allegri, as I call him, because they play such defensive, such dour counter-attacking football. That how can you develop as a youngster?
No, I'm sorry, you can't. I'm not letting you do that. I'm not letting you use Allegri's name. I'm not letting you slander Allegri's name like that. I'm sorry.
I saw some people, though. Jokes aside, or maybe this is a joke.
Yes, it is a joke.
I've seen some people compare him to Mauri, saying he's the new Mauri. The Brazilian Italian that joined Juventus from Palermo, who after a brilliant season at Palermo in 2008, and he was also seen as a kind of this monster of a striker, big 6'2", 6'3", bullying players, great in the air, and then he ended up being very technically limited and a total flop at Juventus. There are questions also about Vlahovic's kind of technique. His first touch is often very, very heavy. I don't know.
I've seen some people refer to him as a Petagna with better technique.
Oh my god!
Which I think is a little bit unfair. But look, I do think, I wonder if he's not. I don't think he's the kind of guy. I think he needs to play in an attacking team so that he's not the only focal point. I wonder if he's a little bit, if someone like Erling Haaland will score no matter where he plays, and he has. But Vlahovic isn't that guy. He needs to have players and a system that caters to him to get the most out of him. Otherwise, he turns.
Should Juventus sell him? That's the big question.
Yes, I think so. I think he's a young player. You can cash in on him, bring in someone because Allegri isn't leaving. This is how Juventus want to play, and I think they should continue this identity and build from basically from ground zero and upwards. And I wonder if Vlahovic, is it worth it?
Should Juventus drop him now for the end of the season? I mean, big games coming up for Juventus now.
I don't know. Why not?
Their season's on the line. Same with the question we asked with Rafael Leao. Forget about the summer. I mean, Juventus they're getting nothing out of him now.
I don't know, man. I really don't know, but I do think it's a completely bizarre situation because I still think there's a player there. I just think
there has to be a player. I'm sorry, you don't break a 60-year record without.
No. You can have a wonder season in that, or a wonder year, but that's fine. But no, I think there's a player there. I just don't think he's that striker today. Maybe he could be one day, but I don't think he is that striker today that can play. He needs to play in an attacking-minded team. With players around him who can create space and beat their man and do stuff like that. And at Juve, they play low, and he's not. He doesn't seem to understand how he's supposed to interpret that role.
To be honest, I find him struggling in all facets. Whether they're pinning the team back and crosses are coming out. So I don't see him very good from crosses either.
Right.
So whether they're playing against deep defenses or on the counter attack, I think he's struggling in every aspect. Yeah. Anyway, we have to move on. Milan smashed Napoli 4-0. Then they can't beat Empoli. I mean, what's going on here? Because it's the story of Milan and Inter season.
I was just about to say that. Look, the problem is exactly this: the depth and quality overall. They can't deliver in all tournaments. They can't do that. They simply can't do that. Neither Inter, Milan, or can do that. Napoli can because they're in the quarterfinal of the Champions League and they're going to win the Serie A. They were unlucky in the Coppa Italia against Cremonese. If you go and watch that game, the refereeing was shocking. So I don't count that. But Milan and Inter are obviously not good enough to compete on all fronts. It's one or the other. And it shows. And I think last summer we praised Ricky Massara and Maldini. I think, Ricky Massara, is currently the best sporting director in Italy. But so I will never understand, and I will die on this hill. Why in God's name did they get Divock Origi? I don't understand that. It was so silly and stupid. Because he offers absolutely nothing. Nothing. And...
yeah. Well, we've spoken about Origi so much, haven't we? I mean, he was booed off the pitch, so the Milan fans have had it with him. Well, he was embarrassing.
I understand them. I mean, and he's not exactly a teenager either. That's so we can say, you don't, he's young.
Well, look at his numbers, Nima.
It's, what is it? 2 goals in 27 games and 1 assist in the Serie A.
Yeah. Yeah, but the thing is, everybody saw it. We saw it.
Yeah,
I went ballistic
I
at it when
remember
they
we
when
all
they
saw
signed
it.
him, because why are you buying the sixth or seventh choice striker at
It's
Liverpool?
mental.
I mean,
I
why? I mean,
genuinely don't
that
get
for
it.
me, that is the worst advert for Serie A that you can possibly get
Yeah,
in terms of on the footballing side of things. When you see Milan, this giant club, signing the seventh choice striker at Liverpool, who had and let me read out his numbers at Liverpool: 22 goals in 7 seasons at Liverpool, 10 goals in his previous 5 seasons before joining Milan. And you give him a 4 million per season contract until 2026, a 4-year contract. I mean, what did Milan expect from him on those with those kind of numbers? I don't get it at all. I don't get it. One thing I would say though, away from Origi, I did think that Milan, despite that, I thought Milan were unlucky in this game. And they created so many chances, like Inter. They had 23 shots to 1, and Milan and Inter had combined almost 50 shots in their 2 games. So I think you have to also acknowledge that Milan, were very, very unlucky in this game. And if I can bring some positives from this game ahead of the Champions League game, is I think Milan physically look in good condition. They look
agree.
fit. They look fresh. Their pressing is good. The intensity is good. The players are moving well. Salamakers again was doing some great little dribbles, and they rested 5 starters who will play against Napoli. The whole attack,
Yeah,
Leao, Giroud, and Brahim Diaz, they did come on. Krunic and Kia didn't play either. So, I think I'll say it again. I think Milan look physically in better
yeah,
condition than Napoli going into
yeah.
that game. And so I don't think, I don't think we should be too hard on them. But obviously, they needed to win this game for the top 4,
Look, I
and they
worry
slipped
for
up.
both Inter and Milan. I really do. They could both end up missing the Champions League next season, which would be a disaster for both of them.
I think we're at a stage now where it's almost certain that one of them
One
will
of them
miss
will
out.
miss. Yeah, I
One of them will
agree.
miss out.
And I think it's
Assuming
going to
you,
be. And I think
yeah,
it's going to be Inter. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I think it's going to be
yeah.
Inter.
If Juventus get their points back, one of Milan or Inter is missing out.
Yeah,
I think it's inevitable now
yeah.
because Napoli and Lazio are locked in now. I think Juventus will be locked in if they get their 15 points back. So then you're looking at one place.
Well, Roma are involved as well.
Yeah, so it's not impossible, or both of them could miss out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, it's a worry. I mean, listen, Nima, we've done this to death about Inzaghi, but just to put the question to you, I mean, again, Inter absolutely battered Salernitana. They had chance after chance after chance in this game, and then they concede right at the end to the equaliser. I mean, Inzaghi
What is
are
this?
Inter's attack getting Inzaghi the sack?
Yes,
That
they are.
rhymes. That does as
They
well.
are. It does. It really does rhyme. But yes, they are. And the XG, I tweeted it out. I was looking out, and for me, XG is a tool that describes whether or not a club or a team or a squad is creating chances or not. And it's evident that
Agree. I agree with that
that's how
100%.
I view it.
Yeah.
And if you look at the stats, it's obvious that Inter are creating chances. I mean, just look at the XG and goals scored. Spezia 3.87 XG, 1 goal. Porto 0.5, 0 goals. Juventus 1.25, 0 goals. Fiorentina 2.75, 0 goals. Juventus 1.52, 1 goal. Salernitana 2.94, 1 goal. I mean, what is it? What can a manager do? What can a manager do? What manager could? How is Romelu Lukaku's missing sitter after open goal sitters? One
Another
after
open
the other.
goal. Yeah.
Yeah, he headed the crossbar from a yard out.
The question is this, and this is the debate that I've seen with Inter fans in it, and I put out a tweet basically saying what you've said, where if you're having that much XG every game, if you're having 25 to 30 shots every game, you're creating 6 or 7 one-on-ones and sitters every game.
Yeah.
Lukaku's missing open goals every game. Can you blame the manager? That's what I asked, right? Or
I don't
is
think you
it just,
can.
that your attackers are just not good enough? Now, a lot of people agree, but there was a lot of Inter fans who actually, and I think this is interesting, have said, well, is that also down to Inzaghi? Is it
How?
something that he should be doing in training? Is it a mental issue? Is it something that he's not mentally getting the attackers
Tell you what.
in a frame of mind?
Let's talk about that, because if in order to answer that, you need to go into detail and look at the personnel. Who are the ones missing the chances? 37-year-old Edin Dzeko, Joaquin Correa, Lautaro Martinez, who we know is a patchy goal scorer, who we've, who if you remember the season they got rid of Lukaku and brought in Correa, and we were talking that summer, I said, I think Inter lack a natural goal scorer. That's what we're seeing now. There is no, if Mauro Icardi played for Inter, discard Wanda and all that drama, but if Mauro Icardi was at Inter this season and last season, he would score 40-45 goals a season, and Inter would have won the domestic treble last season, and I can't say they would have won the Serie A this season, but they would be within 5 points of Napoli. Inter don't have someone who can put the ball into the back of the net. Romelu Lukaku is finished at the highest level. Edin Dzeko, God bless, 37 years old. Joaquin Correa is a meme, not a footballer. And Lautaro Martinez is who he is. He's a patchy goal scorer. He's a 9.5. He's a 10.5. And he's one of the best in the world.
With Dzeko and Correa, I think I'm definitely with you. With Lukaku, I mean, we can see the physical decline. There's no doubt about that. The only thing I would say that there is a question mark is, if Conte was the manager, for example, I think Lukaku would be putting more of his chances away. I think I would say that.
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I think the physical decline is clear, because you see, even when he gets those balls in the channel, 2 years ago, when he gets the balls in those channels, he would go with his left foot up the line and he would blitz and he would
destroy.
He would race away. Obviously, he hasn't got that. That sharpness is gone, and that
completely
coldness is gone.
Completely gone.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's what I'm saying. Like, It's like football, if you keep missing sitter after sitter after sitter after sitter. And yes, Inter have been unlucky, hitting the woodwork a lot, but that's part of the game. That's not an excuse. So do I think, if we're talking in isolation, out of these point drops, how much, then yes, I think Inzaghi is given a pass to some extent. But at the end of the day,
well, let me look at
the things I don't give him a pass.
Let me give you some stats that I dug out here. Dzeko, no goals in 17 games for club and country. He's on a 17-game streak without scoring. Again, a bit like that Vlahovic number. I had to double check some of these. Like, I couldn't believe that some of these were real. Lukaku, 3 goals in Serie A this season, missing open goals 2 games in a row now. Correa's not scored in almost 6 months. And Lautaro, as you said, we know how inconsistent and patchy he is. He's now gone on an 8-game streak without scoring for club and country. I mean, when Inter are going into a stage of the season now where, top 4 is on the line. They've got I still think Inter are going to raise themselves in the Champions League. I think they just do. But those numbers are horrific for the attackers. I mean, they're all just, their form and their confidence is so bad. And also, I just want to read out one other stat, which is also fantastic. I nicked this off Uncle Sharma on his podcast, in the Inter podcast, which is really good. So this is his stat. In the last 6 games, Inter have had over 100 shots, 33 of those shots on goal. So they're kind of like, I think less than a third of their shots are shots on target. Which is an issue in itself already, but still. And then from those 100 shots, only 3 are goals, and 2 of those were penalties.
Yeah,
so
and one open play. And if you
one
look at
open
the
play
XG,
goal from 100,
and if you look at the
shots.
XG, and if you look at the XG, which again is a tool that shows how many, like in terms of goal scoring chances and how good those chances are, they're through the roof. I mean, if Inter weren't creating and had a dreadful XG and it just had shots like under Spalletti with crosses and inshallah, then that's something else. But that's not where we are here. They are creating chances. They are actually dominating teams. But the strikers are letting them down. And to me, as much as I love Beppe Marotta, bringing Lukaku back he's been the flop of the Serie A. There's no doubt about that. They should have gone after Paulo Dybala. Paulo Dybala and Lautaro together would have suited more how Simone Inzaghi likes to play. Or if not Paulo Dybala, because I don't know, he's not sharp enough or injured or whatever, then someone else who can put a tap-in merchant, if you will, someone who knows how to put the ball into the back of the net, because this is ridiculous now.
Yeah. No, it is, and it always seems to be the goalkeepers also always seem to have a wonder performance. In this case, it was Ochoa, the Mexican, who has actually been absolutely brilliant since joining Salernitana.
Yeah.
He's saved them so many points, and he made some fantastic,
good.
Yeah, and also Onana again. I'm a big fan of him, but you have to blame him.
You see, I give him.
It was a bit of a fluke. It was a fluke.
It was a fluke shot, and he saw it late. I don't think the old goalkeepers always look stupid when a goal like that goes in. But it's I don't blame him for that. Shit happens. It's fine. But because he's very good and he's the future at Inter, and unless
I think if there is one weakness in his game though.
It is the crosses.
It is crosses, yeah. He does flap on crosses a little bit.
He looks
sometimes.
a bit flappy at times. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Let's just race through the rest of I'll race through the rest of the results because we've gone way over. So Torino 0, Roma 1. That puts Roma in a really, really good position now. Puts them into third actually in the Champions League race. 1 point above Milan and 2 points above Inter. So it's going to be really, really fascinating top four race. Udinese 2, Monza 2. Fiorentina drew 1-1 with Spezia, so their winning streak comes to an end. Atalanta thrashed 3-0 at home to Bologna, another string to the Thiago Motta bow. Sampdoria 2, Cremonese 3. So I think that now we can say definitely those two teams are both relegated now.
But Verona did win. So
Verona won, 2-1 against Sassuolo with a last-minute lob from Adolfo Gajic, and they're 4 points off safety now. So they've given themselves a fighting chance now.
So and if you look at coming games for them, they play Napoli, which they're going to hopefully they're probably going to lose. Then they play Bologna at home. Then they've got Cremonese away and Inter at home, and then Lecce away. So there is chance for them to make up some of that ground. But that game against Lecce is a 6-pointer. Don't miss that in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm sure you won't.
No, of course I won't.
You definitely won't.
Well, of course
you definitely won't miss. You won't miss that.
No. It's almost to the point where I might not even watch Inter playing if they're playing at the same time. You can completely see that, can't you?
Right, Champions League. So this is going to be a massive, massive week for Champions League football. 3 Italian teams in the quarterfinal, which I think the last time it happened was in 2006, if I'm correct. It's been a long, long time since we've got into April and we've been able to look forward to and watch multiple Italian teams in European final stages. So that's fantastic for all us Serie A fans. It's going to be really exciting to watch. We hope we get the good results as well. So Benfica versus Inter on Tuesday, and then Milan versus Napoli on Wednesday. Interesting because Benfica lost at the weekend. They lost at home to Porto, only their second defeat in normal time in the entire season. So, how do you feel going into this game?
I look at this and I see Otamendi, their captain, is suspended. Although I'm not a fan of Otamendi, so I'm not sure how much of a weakening that is. But when I was on a Portuguese football podcast, which I know you also were, previewing the Sporting game. I was on the same podcast, but they about the Benfica game. They have problems in defence.
They're going to have 2 young centre backs playing, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
I mean, one of them is fantastic, Antonio Silva. I mean, I'm a big fan of him, but obviously 2 youngsters never played at this stage. Yeah, it could be interesting. I think they got an injury. Bar, the right back. I don't know if he's going to be fit. So I don't know.
I don't think he is going to be fit. I think it was a serious injury, from what I read. But I wouldn't take poison on it, as we say in Sweden. Yeah. When we're insecure on.
So Inter could get more chances then. This is basically what we're saying. Right?
Yeah, and they're going to miss it because someone is not going to. No, but seriously, I think this is a game where Benfica are
Grimaldo is. I'm also seeing that Grimaldo, the left back, is also at risk of missing the game. Yeah. So Benfica could have problems in defence.
Yeah. But the thing is with Benfica is that they're an attacking side. I don't expect them to sit back and defend. I expect them to go after Inter. And Inter usually do well against teams. That's why they've done so well against the top teams, except for Juve maybe, because Juve don't attack them. But the teams that attack and are open, that usually...
Well, Juventus even got 3 goals against them
Yeah.
in that second game, and they made a late. I mean, I think they took their foot off the gas, and probably because they were 4-1 up. But yeah, I mean, Benfica are a great team. You've seen them this season. They're absolutely destroying the Portuguese league. They destroyed Juventus. They topped the group, went unbeaten against PSG. They hammered. I mean, it's a club bruise. They're not a good team, but they're an attacking team.
Yeah, they are an attacking team, and I expect them to go after Inter.
Having said that, I still think that this is the same as the Porto game. I said it's 50-50. I still see this as
50-50 as well.
I still see on paper, I think Inter are better players, but I think as a team, Benfica are a better team. I think
for sure.
But I think that, again, it'll be interesting to see kind of how experience comes into it. When you get to the latter stages, quarterfinals, experience does come in. And I think
Inter are the oldest team in the second.
Yeah, Inter have the more experience in their team. So I think that can help them.
It's a retirement home, not a football club.
Milan, Napoli, though, we've spoken about this a lot already. We've already done a preview on this, which you can see on our YouTube channel from last week.
And also it was on Patreon, the Thursday episode, but the clip is on YouTube, so check that out.
Yes, that's right, yeah. Milan, Napoli, I mean, I think the most interesting thing from this game, well, 2 things. First of all, will Osimhen be back?
Yeah.
That will be absolutely key.
Crucial.
And 2, psychologically, how will Napoli be affected? And Milan, but how will Napoli be affected from getting that 4-0 thrashing last week? I think that is absolutely key, because those games, they do weigh on you. I think the first goal in this tie could be important, maybe, as well,
agreed.
from a psychological point of view. And I do think that Milan physically, they do look fresher. But then I said the same thing about Juventus ahead of the Intercoppa Italia game, and I was completely wrong there. So sometimes it's hard to tell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes it's a mentality thing, as well. Sometimes it's how you mentally go into the game, and then from the start, and then that can play a role as well. Yeah. Europa League and Conference League, we've got Feyenoord, Roma. Feyenoord are going to win the Eredivisie. They're unbeaten. I think they're unbeaten in 2023 until they lost to Ajax in the cup. They're Feyenoord at home in the first leg, I think. And then we've got Juventus Sporting, which I was quite confident with Juventus, but then these last 3 games have kind of knocked my confidence. Sporting have struggled domestically this season, but they're in good form and they're unbeaten. They're on an unbeaten run, and they knocked out Arsenal in the last round. So yeah, it's going to be a tough game for Juventus. One game I am quite confident on, though, is Fiorentina in the Conference League. They're playing Lech Poznan away. I'm pretty confident Fiorentina go through in that tie. They're 3rd in the Ekstraklasa, the Polish league, and they've lost a lot of games this season. So I'm confident of Fiorentina. That's the one Italian team that I'm confident will go through.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that.
The rest are all competitive games, and tough to call. Okay, let's finish off with Baggio and Prem-Face of the week. Okay, Baggio.
It's
Sarri.
Sorry?
Sarri. Has to be Sarri.
Yeah, it has to be Lazio and Sarri. That team move for the second goal is just stunning. Absolutely stunning.
Yeah, it has to be. Prem-Face of the week.
We've got a recommendation from Mike Lazar, our patron, who writes, I don't always suggest Prem-Face of the week moments, but when I do, it's because I just heard the commentator in Liverpool Arsenal just say that substitute Jakub Kiwior arrived from Spezia. I've been laughing uncontrollably at this ever since he sent that message. They're not called Spezia for me anymore. They're called Spezia.
Oh, I love it. That's brilliant.
But we've got a whale of...
Did he say which TV station that was?
I don't know. I'll DM him. He sent it to us on DM on Patreon, so I'll definitely... Mike, if you're listening to this, please let us know where you heard this. And who said it, if you can. But we have a whale of a Prem face this week. This is one of the best all-time Prem faces ever, in my opinion. Dean Saunders, the former Welsh international, if I'm not mistaken, and striker, he went on a incredible, fantastic rant, which I think proves that they only do this on purpose at that station on TalkSport. They only say crazy, inflammatory, deliberately batshit things just for interactions. Because this is the kind of things. This is the level of analysis, is the kind of level that I expect from someone who, who walks around saying Elvis is live and is from Mars. Like, it's absolutely incredibly crazy. There's no logic here. And he says, assists are a bugbear of mine. Kante should have 3,000. I mean, he starts the move by intercepting the ball for his team. So how is he not going to get an assist for that? Because he doesn't make the last pass? So Kante goes through 3 challenges and you just side foot De Bruyne in. If you play with bad players, you won't get the ball and your assists go down. And if I don't make the runs, your assists go down. So I don't believe in them. They're rubbish. It's a team game. Did Harry Kane get any credit for stepping front of that young lad at Everton? It's like, I got to hand it to the host. I don't know who it is, but he was trying to explain to him, yeah, that's what an assist is. I don't know how many times he said it. That's what an assist is.
I think, you know what? I think you are. I'm starting to warm towards your theory about this all being deliberate. With this case, I am warming to your theory.
I mean, come on. Like, it's so blatant. And it's just like, I mean, it's.
I mean, how far back do you go? I mean, you're going back to the defensive midfielder.
Well, how back? Well, if we're going, how back do you want to go? What about the mother and dad
go back
that night and having sex and conceiving the football player?
Well, let's go back to the Big Bang. The Big Bang when it happened.
The universe gets an assist as well. I mean, nah, man, this is absolutely mental. Like, this is so crazy that I had to watch it like 5 times. And because that's when I tweeted, I was like, no, this is so obvious now. They are literally just doing this for interactions, because that's just crazy. And this makes no sense. And I got to hand it to what's I forget his name. He the person who showed this to me is our own Prem-Face Hunter. What's his name? Oh,
Samuel Ventress.
Yes, Samuel.
Yes,
Samuel.
Sam. Yeah, Sam always says this.
He's the Prem-Face Hunter, and he tagged me, and my jaw hit the floor when I saw this. Like, that is amazing. That is.
Yeah, that is a whopper for sure. Right. Okay. I once went to watch Dean Saunders play. Actually, Italy versus Wales. Euro 2000 qualifier at Anfield. Italy won 2-0. And he was already old by then. He played in that game, but that game was most memorable because before the game, we arrived at the game at Anfield. We were outside the stadium, and everybody was like, all the fans were all congregating outside the stadium waiting to go in. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this really like ugly looking dog comes running through the crowd, like, off its lead on its own. And it was suddenly another dog, ugly-looking dog, came running after it and was chasing it. And then it caught the dog, and it was in the middle of this crowd, and there was like thousands of supporters all watching this dog. And then it just started like doggy styling it. Like in front of everyone. Here. I'm being serious. Get out of here. In front of everyone, in front of all the Italy and Wales supporters, the 2 dogs were at it before this, and I just thought, is this Liverpool? That's what I thought. God. That's what I thought. Welcome to Liverpool.
Liverpool fans are going to
literally we travelled in a minibus, and we'd only just got out of the minibus, and we just like 2 minutes earlier. It was like the first thing I saw in Liverpool. Was these 2 dogs.
I love how you like appearance shame dogs. 2 ugly dogs were having it away, and Carlo is just
I'll never forget it.
So it would have been better if the dogs were cute. Is that what you're saying?
That was my biggest memory from that Italy versus Wales game was the 2 dogs, and giving Diego Fusé abuse because he was playing right wing and like. We didn't like him. Like, we didn't want him to play.
Dear. That's fantastic, that is.
Yeah, that was a memory. Cool. Right, let's leave it at that. We'll be back on Thursday to review.
Well, no, we'll be back tomorrow, Tuesday, for the Q&A pod.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, I was going to get to that. Yeah, I was going to go Thursday, then back to Tuesday. Right. Tuesday for the Q&A, and then Thursday for the review, the Champions League football. Champions League matches, yeah. Okay, right. Have a good midweek.
Happy Buona Pasqua to all who celebrate. Happy Easter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ramadan Kareem to all who observe that. And
Ramadan's still going on, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it's still going
another
on.
2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Great. Okay, we will see you soon. All the best. Ciao, ciao.